Hello there. Welcome to Fate Mag Radio, the online voice of Fate Magazine, and I am so glad that you're here. I am I am having an interesting day. Like I have something just hanging on the back of my chair. Not anymore. But I am going to have so much fun because you are too. I'm going to get to welcome someone who is part of the Things Network. She is the Colorado representative, lead investigator of things. Adrienne Adrienne Clayton is also an holistic healer. She's a medium empath. She is a Reiki master and an ordained minister. So I'm really looking forward to learning more about her work because I'm fairly new at being the representative of Things Network for Alabama. So she is going to be kind of my mentor as I am coming into this role. I'm so excited to be having her here. And I'm really interested in knowing how she's using her Reiki and her holistic healing skills. She's also a witch, which I find fascinating. And yes, I do have that different voice tonight. My husband says that when I'm sick, I sound a lot different. So if I sound different, I'm sick. But I'm not too sick to enjoy my chance to have a chat with Adrienne. So, Adrienne, thank you so much for being here.
Hello.
Hey, I'm so excited to get to talk to you.
You'll have to keep me on track. I do this squirrel thing that goes down
I
just.
had that issue too, so this is going to be a good time.
Yeah, I have to get brought. But hey, this is the subject. What are you doing?
Yeah, I do that, and that's okay. And I was
Sometimes
having
it's
some
interesting.
technical issues this afternoon, so um, if I seem a little bit, it was probably because of the yuck, but that's okay. So tell me how. First of all, you're a Reiki master, you're an empath, you're a healer. So when did you first discover that you were all these things?
I didn't. I sought them out.
Okay,
Um, I my mother died when I was 8 years old. So
I'm sorry.
the whole time I was like, if it's possible for somebody to come back and talk to you, they would. She would have.
Mhm,
So I don't believe this.
absolutely.
So I got taken on a paranormal excursion to Ballinger, Texas, Old Park Hotel,
Okay.
and I was like, nah, I'm going to be the bravest one there because I don't believe in this. And so, but I did do my research on who lived there or who
Mhm.
was there, um, reportedly there, and one of them was Killing Jim Miller. He was an old cowboy, and they called him Deacon.
Okay.
He was a murderer, yes, he was, but he did it for his reasons. So I kind of empathized with him a little bit and was like, if I was back there, maybe I can understand this. He was a cattle rustler. He was, but he was on church at church every Sunday morning. So,
I know
um,
people that would be cattle rustlers in another life were at church every Sunday morning.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was
And
like,
that's
okay,
cool.
so a month I'm sitting here researching this guy. And I get there, and the team lead that asked me to go, he said, everybody's asleep. Do you want to go? It's like 2 something in the morning. I was like, sure, let's go. We went, we saw some shadow figures, things like that. I didn't see it. I don't know what they were saying. I didn't see it.
Yeah.
So he's doing that spirit box that is just so loud and so obnoxious. I mean,
It
honey,
is, right? Yeah,
way up
it
there.
drives me crazy too.
And I didn't hear anything out of it. I mean, you can make things out of it if you speed it up fast enough and some words start forming. But I was like, whatever. He's asking questions, and he said, do you want to ask some questions? I said, sure. I asked for him. I knew his horse's name, his wife's name, the day he died, what he said when he died, um, what they allowed him to keep on him, what he said with to his wife, his kids' names. Apparently, I had done a little too much research.
Is there really such a thing?
Yes, because now I know that when you start doing that, the energy lines connect.
It comes and finds you.
It did. But that day, I heard a whistling behind me, like a man calling his horse. And I was like, "Did you hear that?" And he said, "No." Okay. My imagination. Okay. I've heard it 2 more times and it kept moving on each side of me, behind me. My friend never heard it. So I was like, okay, I'm done. We played it back and it actually happened, I think, 4 or 5 times. And it
Oh
showed up
my.
in the video. And I thought, okay, that's pretty cool. Maybe explainable. I don't know. Pretty cool. 2 weeks later, I was working graveyard shift, home around midnight. Heard that. I live out in the country, or did at the time.
Right.
I heard that same whistle. Oh, that is so
It's your
strange.
home?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sitting outside having a drink, just enjoying peace and quiet. I was like, okay, maybe somebody's out hunting. I'm not going to worry about it. Well, that night, there was a little plaque that we got from Tractor Supply years before. And it had a little cowboy hat on it, had an actual Texas spur on it, and a bottle opener. Been sitting on our bed for at least a year. It fell down that night, and it pierced my husband's ear and into his head.
Oh my goodness.
Of course, I got accused of doing that. I absolutely did not. I was asleep. But I was like, okay, this is making sense now. And so I started diving deeper into, which I ended up divorcing that man. But I started diving deeper into, I was friends with mediums. Let's teach me. They say anybody can do it. Show me.
Mm-hmm.
And she did. Jennifer Lee taught me. From there, I went into, I had bought a course online for crystal healing.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, okay, that led into, okay, I'm now questioning my whole religion, which I have been for a while anyway. But now it's like, okay, because I was raised Christian. You didn't have a choice. This is what you did. Now I'm like,
Which faith in Christianity?
I was Brethren,
Okay.
which is kind of close to a Baptist, I guess.
Yeah, it is.
So, I'm going down rabbit holes with friends and talking, and I'm open to, tell me why you believe what you believe. Show me some facts. Different things. I first got into paganism, and my best friend, and it was really strange because I went and investigated with this same group at a bar she owned in New Mexico. I didn't know her. Had no idea. She wasn't even my contact. It was her mother. And some bad things happened. A couple of people got, I'm not going to say possessed, but they were pretty oppressed by the time it was over because they had done some things they shouldn't have done.
During the course of the investigation?
Yes.
Okay.
One person almost actually got murdered through the whole thing. It turned out kind of crazy. This must
Okay.
investigation.
Okay. I have to interject here. Okay. Because here you are. You're curious. You go to your first investigation. It comes home with you.
Mm-hmm.
Tries to kill your husband.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you get rid of the husband, kept the interest. So sounded like a good plan to me.
Mm-hmm.
Then after that, you communicate and befriend someone out of state who is having their own experiences. And you think, well, look at me. I'm just going to go out here and I'm going to try this now. And you're dealing with oppressions. Were you familiar with what you were experiencing? Did you recognize what an oppression was?
No.
Did you? Okay, so all this stuff is happening and you just don't really understand what it is yet?
I thought they were acting for attention.
I have had that thought about people and places too, because it's hard to imagine that this is truly something spiritual, right?
Mhm. And
And
I backed off. I was like, you all handle this because it's out of my realm. I don't know what's going on. I
well,
actually,
did anyone else? I'm sorry. Is it okay for me to ask you questions as we
sure,
go?
sure.
But as you're going through this experience, you've got people with you who have more experience, right?
You would think.
So, yeah, right. But more experience does not always equal more knowledge.
No.
It just doesn't always. But as you're doing this, because I have thought people were fruitcakes
Mhm.
that I was out with, and then come to find out what was happening was real. They didn't even know what was happening to them, so they were tripping out because they thought that they were the be all and end all to paranormal investigation,
Mhm.
right? So, um, were the people you were with shocked?
No, no,
No.
no. As a matter of fact, I found out a couple of more fruitcakes. Um, but the one that I had went with, the leader that I had went with, was the biggest fruitcake. And I knew some of the other people just kind of on Facebook, and the mother, her daughter came in, which I didn't know existed. She came in. She's 25 years old with her two kids. Walked in
With her kids,
with her kids. They own this bar, and by
right?
then it was morning, and she found out what happened. They stormed in. She looks at me, just smiles, sets down a book. It's a Wiccan book of energy and different things, and I'm like, oh boy, we're about to make this worse. So I just stood back. But I admired this woman for coming in, taking control, had no idea what even happened. And she tried to help whoever it was and did. And did. There was three of them, and she did help them. One of them refused help and said he feels empty without whatever it was he had inside of him. Okay.
So, had he been traveling with that and brought it with him, or was this new?
This was new. He had gotten rid of the one he had and wanted another one, whatever this one was.
Oh, wow.
I didn't stick
Talk
around.
about diving in the deep end.
Yeah, I didn't stick around for any of that. But as she walked away, she looked at me and she says, I just peed on you. You're mine. And I thought, you're crazy. I
No
thought,
doubt.
you're
That would
crazy.
have been my take on it. That's so
But
freaky.
I,
Girl.
I felt that connection with her, like
Right.
we'd always known each other.
Right.
We've now been best friends for 4 years,
Yeah.
talk every day. And she has taught me a lot about energy
Hmm.
and how to follow it, how to cut it, how you can know somebody that knows somebody and still that energy is following and can come to you.
Sure.
Her mother was actually I don't want to say Satan worshiper because that's not what it was. It was demonic. She was in a demonic cult. She actually conceived her on a demonic altar. This girl was supposed to be evil, but turned the other direction.
Because it is a choice.
Yeah. And her mother now
People
tries
forget
to
that.
hurt her every chance she gets. She goes through her kids, she'll go through me, she'll go through her friends. And this girl's almost died, like in the time I've known her, 6 times because of that woman. And we cannot stop her. We've tried everything, cannot stop her. But that drives me to learn more.
Well, sure it does, because you can't have that happening on your watch.
No,
I mean,
no,
I get that.
the babies, they're being affected. One is 13, the other's 5.
Oh, those are they're both very vulnerable ages, but the 13 is especially.
Her other son committed suicide when he was 14. And part of the reason was because of this woman, the things she said to him. So she has a lot of, I don't know, exactly that it's demonic. I just know she has connections that is not good.
Well, it's so easy to throw the word demonic out there,
Mhm.
as you know. Um, but it doesn't have to be demonic to be dangerous, harmful, and tragic.
Mhm.
It's ill intent is so powerful.
Mhm.
And I feel like human intentions can be just as bad. I really do, because it's one thing. Demonic possession has completely different evidences.
Oh,
There's different ways to see things, but just an evil, nasty, wicked human
mhm.
is bad enough
Yeah.
that they can create havoc for people that they're targeted on.
Yeah, my belief is, I don't know about the devil or any of that. I believe there's good and evil,
Hmm.
and then there's us that are a little bit of both. And you kind of pick which, where do you want to go?
Well, you do
Not,
choose your team,
yeah, not where do you want to go. Yeah, choose your team. Um,
and especially doing what we do.
mm, yeah,
Because we're always challenged. I find it to be true. You do too, apparently.
mhm.
And
Intention, like you said,
yeah,
intention.
and if somebody is intent on bringing harm to you, you have to figure out how to protect from that.
Mhm.
Because I'm, I am, I am a Christ follower. I don't really have a denomination. I have my beliefs
Mhm.
and believe he is who he said he was and did what he said he did. But I do think that that makes me a challenge for people sometimes.
Right, right, and they shouldn't be any more than people should
Well,
be challenged with a witch
mm-mm.
because everyone's different. Of course, we got the kitchen witches, we got the oh whatever.
House witches and
Yeah,
yeah, garden witches. Yeah.
but I think what we follow is intention when you put it out there, just
Hmm.
like anybody else, no matter what denomination or no matter what religion you are, you put that out there and it's pretty powerful.
Sure, it is.
Now, the misconception is all witches don't believe in God, and that's not
Well,
true.
all witches aren't Wiccan
Right,
either.
right,
So, I mean, it's Wiccan is a religion.
right. And
So,
I do believe there is a God. I mean, that's
well,
none. There
somebody
is a
put us here and did all this
yeah,
beautiful stuff.
yeah. It didn't just poof. Here it is.
Yeah.
But I have a little bit of trouble with man written Bible, and them saying that God was so vindictive and things like that. I'm like, I don't believe that. I don't believe that he
Well,
did that.
I think that if directly challenged, um, anybody can be.
Mhm. Right,
But
right.
I don't think that just for peeps and giggles.
Yeah,
No, I agree with you.
yeah. I think man kind of put their own input in it there, and
Well, yeah, that's the reason that the books written by women were omitted from the Bible
right.
in large part, except for two.
Yeah, yeah.
Mary Magdalene's isn't in there. So yeah,
No,
there's
no, it's not.
yeah. When
And
you have
that's
a patriarchal society, sometimes it gets interesting, I think.
it does. It does. And I think to me, all religions kind of intersect in a way. There's a little bit from each one that each religion can relate to. And of course, maybe not, I don't know if you can call, well, Satanism isn't even worshiping Satan. It's a belief in yourself that there's
Well,
nothing else.
Satanism is a religion, and the reason it is Satanism is that it is a belief in Satan. And it's paganism. I think would be more a belief in yourself and what's around you, or hedonism
Mm,
is just in the happy. What makes you happy is what's right.
right. Yeah, I did which it might have changed between now and the time I was in college. I'm a little outdated there.
I'm a little far back from there myself. So, yeah, no
But
worries with that.
I did a paper on Satanism in
Yeah.
college. And back then, it wasn't the devil they believed in or the Satan they believed in. It was themselves. It was, this is me and I can do whatever I want. I can. Yeah, but those I can have repercussions too. It's not just.
Well, because that is taking responsibility for what you do.
Mhm.
And a lot of times people don't.
More and more.
You're going to have repercussions.
Yeah.
You know,
More and more. Or do not.
well, you're right. I think that that's what we're seeing now is people feeling like the individual is all that matters and how they feel is all that matters.
Yeah, it is.
So,
It is. And you see that most in the kids now, or the parents that can't parent them very well because, my daughter runs a daycare. She cannot tell children the word no or anything negative. Can't say, no, don't do that. You have to redirect. The word no is not allowed. Like, I'm too old for this.
I'm too old for that. I'd be in jail.
The
I'd
word
be
no
fired. I
in my
would be
hand
fired.
works just fine. 'Cause
Yeah, bud.
it all turned out okay. But
Well,
yeah,
you have to have boundaries
you do.
and you have to have consequences for violating the boundaries. And the lack of consequences, I think, is why we're seeing some of the behaviors we're seeing. Because, if you're out promoting death, then that's terroristic threats, and there are because I'm a paralegal. That's terroristic threats. There are repercussions in place just for that, and
I
none of
get
them are
that.
being enforced.
I was a paralegal in Kentucky.
Oh, okay, I'm in Alabama.
I would love to do it again,
Yeah,
except
no,
I
not
was
right now.
right. I was going to take over this little old man, town of like 1,000 people at the most.
Yeah,
And he was getting older and was looking for somebody to take over his whole law firm. And he was going to put me through school to do that. Would have been great, except I was raising 5 kids.
it
So,
makes law school hard.
yeah, I was like, I'm not smart enough for law school to begin with. And when
Don't
he
sell
touched
yourself
it,
short. I bet you were perfect for that.
I was like,
Just
oh.
life got in the way.
It did. But the one thing that really changed it, I was allowed in that town to do, to stand up for, you could do disability cases and you could do food stamp cases as a paralegal on your own. You didn't need the lawyer there. So I did those. But a lot of times I would meet with divorce, the parties for the divorce. And the attorney wouldn't even know until he got to court. And I'd have to brief him on the way. We would walk. It was 2 blocks. And I'd brief him on the way and he'd stand up. Well, I got followed home one day from one of our clients with a gun and had it to my head. And I'm like, I'm done. Because we
Yeah,
lost the case. We knew we would lose the case.
yeah.
But
So ghosts and demons looked pretty lame after that, right?
yeah, I was like, okay, you know what? Paralegal's not my thing. I would rather go wait tables.
Yep. Make more money too.
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes.
I do now because I work from home. And I work for a company that is Fortune 500 company, Bright Horizons. So, it's all inbound calls, help them out. We're good. They treat you good. And gas kind of stinks right now, price of gas. So,
Yes, it does. That's universal. That's everywhere here.
Colorado, the cost of living is, I just can't even. I'm looking
you're
at
in
apartments going,
you're in
3,000.
Colorado, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm like,
That's insane.
this is not okay. This is, what are you doing?
Well, my daughter lived in Denver
Mm.
and her sublet was up. I went out there, could not literally, she had to move because we could not find an apartment.
Yeah.
There was no housing.
Yeah.
And so, but she had a good job that she had to leave. But
Dangerous.
yes, it is. But I'm just curious, at what point, how old were you when you started doing investigations?
32.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was not far behind you. But, you know, after the first couple, when you had people being, you know, at least oppressed, if nothing else, why did you decide to keep doing that?
When that happened, that was actually in my 40s.
Okay.
The
So you
other
had
one,
a little under your belt by then.
it was more, let's go explore more than
Yeah.
anything. But I was 42 when I went to that and actually started staying in it and went with a team and then created my own team. And I just decided there's got to be more. Yes, this could be my imagination. The whistling could be, a microphone going off, whatever.
Right.
But I decided to stay with it to see, there's got to be something after we die. Obviously, there's something. So when I was trained as a medium, I'm like, why am I getting this right? Because I don't see like some people do.
Right.
I'm not clairsentient. I don't. I see in my mind. I don't see with my eyes like some do, full body apparitions, or see spirits as people like some do.
I don't generally, the times that I've seen a full body are so few,
Mhm.
but they still communicate, right? You're that way too. That's what you're saying.
Well, I have a friend who sees spirits like she sees people. She has to decide
Right. Yeah.
if they're real or not. I'm not like that. Like the way I see it, like an example, I was sitting in the living room one day down here in the basement, and I just knew there was somebody standing in front of our freezer in the next room,
Hmm.
and I could see him. I knew what he looked like. I knew what he was wearing. And I knew he was looking for his wife and either child or unborn child. Never seen him before. And he disappeared.
Have you
3
seen him
weeks,
since?
one more time. 3 weeks to a month later, which this house has the basement, the main floor, and the upstairs. We live in the upstairs bedrooms and the main floor. We have 2 kitchens, the basement and the living room. We stay mostly in the basement and hang out. And his parents on the main floor, and we take care of them. Kind of try to give them their space. And I'm in bed, and something wakes me up, and I know I'm facing the other way, and I know behind me he's standing there. I can see him facing away from him. I see him in my mind, but his facial hair is different. His clothes are the same, and he doesn't ask for anything. He's just standing there. I just went back to sleep. I'm like, if you're not going to tell me what you're wanting, I'm done. Good night.
Can't help you if you don't talk to me.
Haven't seen him again. But more than anything, I get phrases and words in my mind when I'm reading a picture or somebody asks me to connect with someone.
Mm-hmm.
And, like one time, and she was actually my mentor that asked me to connect because we can't connect with our own. We know too much. And one of her friends had passed, and she said, try it out. I taught you, try it out. I'm like, I don't know what you want me to do. I mean, this is a touchy situation. This is your friend. I don't know what you want me to do. Try to connect with him. I said, okay. She said, nothing is stupid. Remember that. I said, I got the word peanuts. What? I don't know. I told you this is crazy. She said, that's actually perfect. I'm like, peanuts from a dead man. She says, yeah. The last thing he did, she said, I remote viewed for him to find his wallet. And it was outside in the field. And she said, now you owe me. And he said, I'll pay you with peanuts. I was like, okay. But it's things like that because you can't prove. You
Right.
can't prove anything except to the person you're talking to. And even sometimes then you feel silly because that could have meant something to anybody. They could have liked peanuts. They could have, you just don't know. So I'm still getting used to that.
Yeah, I have a problem with that too because I will,
Mhm.
if it sounds too stupid to be believed, I'm very hesitant,
And
like
I've
you.
learned
I mean,
that's when you
and
say it.
got to do it.
Yeah, I've learned that's when you say it because she taught me. She said there was this one guy, she was reading for, and she's like, I can't. Rubber duck. She's like, I'm seeing a rubber duck. I just have to tell you that. Now let's move on. And he was like, wait a minute. That was his road name, Ducky. She said, okay, so I've learned to say it. I haven't learned that. I mean, there's times I will, but I haven't learned that.
It's so hard, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because especially, um, I've always been sensitive. I've always known, but I've not always investigated, and it really wasn't encouraged,
Mhm.
right? I mean, my grandma was New Age before New Age was a thing. She was all about it, and come to find out, my family on her side, who live in South Alabama, um, my fourth cousin, reached out to me on Facebook, and she was like, "Hi, this is who I am, and this is how we're related, and I've been watching your Facebook, and we're an awful lot alike. We do the same thing, and I just wanted to let you know I'm here." And I was like, "So you found me through Ancestry?" She said, "Well, my daughter did. My
Wow.
daughter got into all this stuff, but, you know, your
It,
grandma was, you know, we're on this side of the family." And
wow.
I was like, "Well, that explains a lot then, because that's why we're a lot alike in our
Mhm.
beliefs, our gifts." And she is a lot more open's not the right word, but she's a lot more um involved, as it were. She gets she sees things in her yard, and I choose not to see things in my yard. There's things,
Yeah.
but I have dogs, so I'm outside, and I'm outside at night because I'm a sky watcher. And I'm just like, nobody mess with me when I'm out here looking at the moon. That's what I do. And you
Yeah.
don't get to invade my space because I'm out
Mhm.
here with dogs and they'll freak out.
Mhm.
And that's been a forever thing. I've been in this house almost 30 years. So when I had my basement studio, I was doing a show and an exercise ball jumped off our foosball table and just rolled around the room. I'm
Ugh.
like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that. That's rude. You don't need to distract me while I'm trying to do a show.
Yeah.
So I'm in the upstairs studio, which is a lot more cluttered, but that's okay because nothing except for a very needy dog that we just adopted is moving around in here.
Mhm.
So
We
if
don't
you
have.
hear anything, it's a great big collie. So
Oh.
he's new. We are trying to become accustomed to that. And I am going to have to reach down here because otherwise I'm going to disappear from the show, which
Uh-oh.
is never good when you're the host, right? It's
No,
such
not
a
at
negative thing.
all.
And that happens sometimes when I'm doing this live also because this has been on the charger all day because I was working on it. So now we are all good. Everything is connected, hopefully. But it's so funny when we do stuff like this. And I do the show twice a week, right? And when it's something that it's going to be kind of interesting, especially if it's UFOs
Mhm.
and if it's spiritual paranormal, I get glitches and weirdness. And it's so funny because I was just today talking with somebody who is a ufologist and a documentarian of that and has a new book coming out. So we were talking while we were talking, all of my stuff to get the show organized just quit working. And I couldn't get my Twitter feed to go. I couldn't get my live to go. I couldn't get anything to cooperate with me. So, if you're going to be talking about weirdness, sometimes it doesn't like to be shared.
I hope her book comes out okay.
Well, it's not her first book, and it is going to be out in December.
Okay.
So, it's going to be really interesting. She has written, she used to write a column in New York about, the sightings and stuff in New York State. And she actually wrote an article for Fate that she didn't know had been published. And we talked about that on the show.
Oh.
And the editor of Fate magazine, the owner, Phyllis Galdi, said, I did publish that story. It's in this edition. And she sent 2 copies of it to my friend.
Oh.
So, yeah. And that's how cool the owner of Fate is. I mean, she knows everything. But
it's nice that they're involved.
I know, right? So, well, she's been the publisher for, God, 30 years, maybe longer than that. But anyway, I digress. But it's so funny because I find that my electronics go weird, the animals act strange. We were talking about stuff, and right before the power indicator on my laptop came up, he had just gotten down and walked around the room.
Oh.
And I mean, because he doesn't move. He's the most lazy. He's not lazy. He's just very calm dog, which is nice because our other one's a nut, and he kind of calms him down.
Yeah, we have a bunch of rescues and border collie.
I have one.
Let's see.
Well, mini Aussie, but yeah.
Border
Same
collie
dog.
and greyhound mix. Don't do it.
Oh, I love greyhounds.
Don't do it.
That's got to be a crazy dog.
Absolutely. And on top of that, she's been abused. So
oh gosh.
She'll
Trust
walk
issues and a nut.
You know how they herd things?
Yep, I do.
Well, she will nip people in the back of the leg.
Mine does. He nipped my grandson. Both of them.
There's no fixing it. I mean, that's their nature. There's no fixing
That's how they work.
Yeah.
But you can't have it happening to kids. Right.
Any other time she's hidden under the table. And she used to hide, we've had her for 2 years now. She stayed under the table. She would not get in the bed with us. She would lay under the bed and just shake. Now she's up in the bed with us, but
yeah,
I don't know what happened to her, but I'd like to hurt whoever did that to her.
Without a freaking doubt.
Yeah. So then we have a Dalmatian Labrador.
Oh my gosh. That's got to be a good dog.
Dumb. No, he's dumb. He is dumber than a box of rocks. And you'll stop that, and he'll go, whoa.
Like, nope. Oh, he's an adolescent then. How old is he?
He is 2.5.
Adolescent. Yeah. This one is 2.5. And he is, he's a collie Aussie mix. And
that should be smart.
He's so smart, but he's very needy. He was an abused rescue, and the woman had him. She pulled him out from under a trailer and had him until he healed. And I guess she's had him over a year. And when we went to meet him, he was just like, oh, you're my human. And I am his human. So, which is why he's in here, because otherwise he would just be trying to get in here. And we couldn't have any kind of conversation.
That's something that I found a lot of people have in common when they're empaths. Is, when I was younger, my dad was a vet. But he was a vet for the USDA. He worked at a beef plant, and he would check the meat and all that. But he also did like neuter and spay on our animals in our garage, our garage was hospital clean.
Right.
But I thought, people look at animals. I didn't know until my last husband that not everybody could see animals like we do. And I was looking at my little Chihuahua and I was like, something is wrong with her. What happened? Did you yell at her? What is going on? It's like, what do you mean? She's a dog. She's just looking at you. I'm like, you don't
That's
see
why
that?
he's not there, right?
Yeah, it's like, you don't see that? And he says, she's just looking at you. No, I don't see that. So I started asking other people. And they're like, what are you talking about? And then others would be like, yeah, I can tell animal's emotions by their eyes. Like, I thought everybody could.
Their eyes, their posture,
Not everybody can, apparently. Apparently, some people just see an animal. No feelings.
That's so weird.
It is. And it's sad.
Well, it is sad because, and that is part of an empath, but it's also part of a healer because they recognize humans that have those skills. They recognize who is not a danger to them.
Yeah.
And it's so imperative to be able to return that and to understand that that's such an honor when an abused animal has trust in you.
Yeah.
So that is kudos to you because that's one of my favorite things about me. And now it's one of my favorite things about you because if an animal recognizes that side of you, that is a tremendous amount of trust that you're being given.
Yeah, we used to. I decided in my 40s I wanted to learn to barrel race. Okay.
I have barrel raced, and that is not a thing to do when you're 40.
I always thought that was something so fun. I was able to have horses at that point, and I'm like, okay. My impression was I would buy a horse that knew what it was doing, and all I'd have to do is sit there.
It costs a lot of money to buy a horse that knows what it's doing.
So we took a little 1-year-old, and I raised the little thing. And we had an old mare that used to be a cowboy horse up in the mountains. My little 1-year-old never got big enough to barrel race. Matter of fact, I'm not sure she ever got big enough for me to sit on, but I did. And my husband was a cowboy. And animals are to do what they're told or they get beat. And my little
People
colt.
that beat animals will beat you too.
My little colt, I was outside one day and I'd always lay with her in the sun. She'd lay down and I'd lay on her belly. And we just sit there. And he says, you need to get up from there. She can hurt you and she can hurt you bad if she spooks. I said, I understand. I know she can't. But I'm going to trust that she's not. And if she does, okay. And I got in a lot of trouble for all that. But she went to buck one day and just barely lift her feet up. And he said, you need to get her. I said, why? He said, she's bucking with you. And I said, if that's a buck, she can do it all day long. Because I thought she tripped. And ended up taking her to, she was so sweet and gentle, to help kids learn to ride. I gave her to somebody who does that. And I'm like, okay. So the next time I got on this mare, scared of everything, scared of paper bags. Her and I learned together. Our best time was 19, going around those barrels. Somebody got behind a barrel and she spooked because
that would do it. Yeah.
Had been there. I don't know what they were doing, but we were doing really good that time. That was our last ride of the year. And she started bucking and there was no hanging on.
Mm.
It's not because I couldn't have. It's because I was not trained.
Right.
And I ended up on my butt in front of her.
Oh, goodness.
And she, as I was falling, I hollered, you bitch. The whole rodeo's looking at me. And it's like, oh my God, she's hurt. I stood up reached for the reins, and she started backing up because she knew she'd done wrong. So I knew she had been beat for doing something
Yeah.
wrong. And so I just backed up and said, come here, come on. That was our last ride. But I could lay on her. My 2-year-old would pull her around. Not even pull, she'd walk with her. And when she'd stop and would not take another step so she didn't step on that baby.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm done with this mess. But animals know.
Isn't it interesting? Because they also know when there's something that's not right in a home. And that is something that I have found fascinating. My animals know if a spirit comes home with me from an investigation. They know if a family member is here. Because usually, if there's a spirit in the house, that's who it is. I had at one point what looked like a dog, but not really like a dog, shadow figure. I was in the living room, looked down the hall, and it jumped from the bed in the guest room into the mirror. And I was like, oh, that's not good.
No.
I know that's not good. So I called for help. I needed help. And fortunately, I had those resources, right? Could you imagine if we didn't do what we do and didn't have those resources?
I
But
would have thought I was seeing something and walked away.
well, I did at first, but when when I realized that, okay, I have spirit animals in my house, but they're mine.
Mm-hmm.
They're dogs who have lived here, a cat, and it didn't quite look like a dog, and it didn't look like any of my dogs.
Mm-hmm.
But when it leaped, it looked more like a greyhound. You know, the lean and long.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't any of my animals. And I couldn't think of why any of them would be going into a mirror in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So I called a friend and she was like, no, we're going to need to handle that because something is there that's not supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it took a little while. When did you learn how to deal with things of a negative bent like that? And
Honestly,
how did you learn?
I didn't. I call my friend and we do it together. What we do is,
That's what I did.
as a matter of fact, we went to Wisconsin about a little over a year ago. And it was just to help her friend, which I have so much respect for her because she made a promise to her friend over 15 years before this and said, if you ever need me, I'm here. She needed her, never called her, but she found out and she picked me up and we went.
Right.
And of course, her friend was too far gone. She was mentally ill at that point. But we tried. But we were in the motel, and during that first investigation where people had issues, one of the people on the team is now energetically connected to me and is not a good person. And she looks at me and she says, my friend says, look in the mirror. Just look in the mirror. What? She said, what do you see? And I saw that other person. I looked like that other person.
Oh.
Like my eyes looked like her.
Right.
And I'm like, she said, have you noticed you're being ugly? It's like, no, wait a minute. Yes, I was. And, it clicked that I was snippy. I was being ugly. And she's like, okay, we got to fix this. And she does mirror magic, which I do not. I don't know how to do that, and I don't even try. Mine is more intent. Get away from me. There is nothing you need from me. My energy is not, connected to yours. Go away. They call it cord cutting, which
yes.
I mean, it is. And they visualize it, but and it's really intent. So you don't have to actually do the act. with the
You
can.
don't, although I know a lot of people that choose to do that because it looks cool. But I actually had someone who was, anyway, go ahead. I'll tell you later. But yeah, cord cutting is not my biggest, I'm not the biggest fan
It,
of the actual showmanship side.
right, right. And she told me when I was saying that, she said, you don't cut, you pluck, because that cord is embedded into them. So you're not going to cut it, you're going to pluck it. Like, okay, so if that's the intent, that intent goes a little deeper. Okay, that works. But it was, she's the one that I always call. And about a month ago, I was at my daughter's house, which I know has all kinds of interesting things going on. A little child used to live there that passed away of cancer. They bought the house, and my granddaughter plays with this child now. And I told her, don't tell her you don't see her. Don't tell her she's not there. You just tell her if she wants to be left alone, tell the little girl, I don't want to play right now. Or I don't want to play with you. This isn't your home anymore. You need to go to the light or whatever it is. Go to your mama. But I hadn't talked to her that day yet because I was traveling. I walked by my daughter's playroom and I see this black, it wasn't big. It wasn't a shadow figure. It was small. It was like a little ball. Went by the door. And my friend calls me and we're just talking. And I said, I saw the weirdest thing. She said, when I called you, that's what I called to tell you. I just saw the same thing going across my counter. Okay. Still don't know what it was, what it was meant to be, or, whatever. But a lot of times we do see the same things, or the same things happen to us. So, I don't know what that means. We try to deal with it together.
Well, it just kind of means that you're tied together.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
energetically.
There's times she'll be freaking out, which she's a little out there anyway with freaking out about things. Her emotions are all over the place, where I'm very not. And she will call me and say, just ground into me. I need you to ground me. And we can do that. Now, whether it's mental that she knows I'm there, I don't know, but it works. Whatever it is.
Well, mental, emotional, you're right. It does. It doesn't matter what, how she knows. But feeling protected and connected, it makes such a big difference.
It does. It does. And I think the same with, doing the crystal healing. Our Creator gave us these. He didn't give us pills and medicine. He gave us plants, and he gave us rocks that have the energy of the earth in them. Well, the energy of the earth also has the energy of the Creator. So he didn't just put these down here just to look pretty, although they do. Everything has a purpose.
Everything does. Well, literally everything. But yeah, I agree with you.
Some are poison. Crystal, quartz, we use it in watches. We use it in clocks. We use it in computers. We know that there's a reason.
Because it's an energy connection.
And
the powers.
I think some of us have learned how to use others the same way. Shoot, they used them, before Christ.
Well, and it's really interesting because a friend of mine has, excuse me, a piece of obsidian. And it's so funny because she's in New Orleans, and I walked into her store, and her son was getting married. She was busy. She was doing stuff. So I'm just wandering around. And when she finished what she was doing, she came back up to me. I was like, look, can you tell me about obsidian? And she's like, were you listening to me? And I'm like, why would I listen to you? You're talking to your kid. That's not something that interests me.
Right.
Right. I mean, that's not my color Kool-Aid. But so she was just kind of like, well, but I was like, no, I did not listen to you. I just want to know what powers obsidian has. And she said, well, let me show you something. And she went to she had one of those old fashioned medicine cabinets they use in pharmacies and stuff. And she pulled out a stone and she was like, this is a piece of obsidian and it's ancient and it has Egyptian hieroglyphs on it. So, go ahead and check it out, you know, just see what you think. And I held it. It was so bizarre, right? And I said, I do ancient alien conventions. I do, media for alien cons and stuff like that. So I said, can I take a picture of this? And she said, sure. You know, I just brought it back from Egypt. No big deal. So I did. I took a photograph of it. And the next time that I was at an alien con, I pulled the picture up and I showed it to the little Egyptian guy with the hat that's, so cool. And I said, can you just look at this and tell me what language it is? What period it is, maybe? And he was like, oh, yes, that would have been during the Pharaoh times, and it would be just regular street person English, language, not English. But it would not have necessarily been a highly educated person. So even the people that were like us were educated enough to communicate and do things like that. Well, you don't hear about that so much because they were supposedly just laborers,
Yeah.
right? So that was something that I learned about stones and energy. And when I held that stone, you could feel the history of that stone.
Oh, wow.
And you would have been able to also. And it was just kind of like, this is cool. And this is a woman who has so many unusual items. And it was just astounding to me that she had found the stone
Yeah.
and recognized it and it lived at her house.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's
it
strange what
was,
calls to you.
yes, it
It's,
is.
I have and I found it, I have to be honest, I was looking for weird things. But I found in a old antique shop those old I can't even remember what they're called now. Mourning pins is what they call them.
Yes. Is it like with the hair or is
Yes.
it okay?
Hmm. It's brass outer and it's got glass and it's got hair in it.
Hmm.
Well, I made a mistake and washed it and it went through my dryer.
Oh my.
All it did was open a little bit, but the hair stayed intact in that little circle it was in. The glass was off of it. I put it back, but it was the prettiest red hair I've ever
Ah,
seen. And I thought, this woman wasn't old
mm-mm.
or man, I don't know, but it was a little longer to curl up in there. It could have been man, I guess. But it was just curled up in there. And I curled it right back and put it back there. But everybody thinks that is the creepiest thing I own. To me, it's history. I've never gotten anything weird out of it. But if you ignore stones and crystals for a long time, they do lose their
Yeah.
effects.
Can you see it?
Yeah, yeah. By the way, hi Tom. I don't think they lose their effects. No, I think they still do their job, just the way
Mhm.
they're supposed to. They don't care if you acknowledge them, if they, that they're not about that. They're just there. I
They
think
are.
they absorb, the ones that are supposed to absorb negative, and when their
Well,
job's done, they're gone. They're break.
and also, the flip side of that, Tom, is if you if you have used your crystals a great deal, or if you've been in an environment where the energy was not as strong, I use moonlight to cleanse mine. I'll just stick them
Hmm.
out
Hmm.
in something that's, oh, and you'll love this. This was something that I did not anticipate, Adrienne. But
What?
my grandson had been at a store somewhere and he told his mom, and this is not something that he would think at all. He said, we need to get this rock for Bebop. And my daughter said, what? And he said, Bebop needs this. Well, he brought it home and it was a great big green stone, right? And I was like, oh, thank you. And so, because it came out of a store, the next full moon, I put it outside with all of my other stones, right?
Hmm.
And just because, you don't know who was handling that in the store and stuff. And when I went back that next morning to get it, a lot of the green had just faded and it had some of the most beautiful white veining through it.
Mm.
And it had lightened up a lot. And I'm like, I just left this out here overnight.
Yeah, and moon, not
Wow.
sun.
Moon, not sun. And I thought that was the coolest thing. And he was right. I did need it. I have it. It sits right over on the other side of the room there. And it was just bizarre. And it feels a lot better than my salt lamp does when I'm having a bad day.
And
So,
that's my husband. It's so weird because he is not paranormal.
mine either.
There's a reason for everything. And that's why I take him, because I want to know that reason.
Yeah.
That because we get caught up. I know we do. And we think, oh, we got evidence. And they give you the scientific side of it, and you're going, okay, that's possible.
Yeah. I hate to, you know, admit that, but my husband is a machinist, mathematician kind of guy. So his logic is usually impeccable.
Yeah, yeah.
So it kind of
Mine,
grounds me.
mine is funny because we dated one time when I don't even know if I should say 13. We went to his house because his brother was in my class. We were in
Hmm.
grade, and his brother was in my class. And it was across the street from the school. And we went over, and that was our date at 12 years old.
Yeah.
But I never forgot him because he was so nice. He was in high school at
Hmm.
that point. He was in ninth, which is huge then, That's,
Yes.
um, and he always jokes it took him 32 years to get another date.
So you were worth waiting for. No.
I don't know what that deal was. We had to learn lessons that we shouldn't have had to learn, but we would
Well,
have never got
everything
along back then.
happens the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, yeah. He drank a lot. He was a motorcycle rider. We would not have. It just wouldn't happen. I was a doctor's daughter. It just wouldn't have worked. But our first date, I took him to a Paracon. It was an old in Salina, Kansas. It was very strange building, and he was sick that day, but he stayed there, didn't say a word. He didn't tell me he's in pain. Finally, I look over and I'm like, we got to go. I can't stay. Mustafa was actually there from Mustafa Gadalori from Ghost Hunters.
Hmm.
And I was supposed to go hunting with him that night. And I was like, no, I can't. Yeah, I'm going to go back to the motel with him. Something followed us home from the motel. I didn't know this. And he woke up in the middle of the night and goes, did you call my name? No, you just woke me up. Thank you. I haven't seen you in 30 years. Why would I call your name? And he's like, a woman just called my name. He's like, oh, never mind. I'm just dreaming it. He realized what had happened and just like, nope, it did not happen. Well, this was a Masonic temple.
Oh my gosh, I investigated one of those. Go ahead.
You know what they did to women,
Yep.
the prostitutes and whatever that was there. Well, this was, of course, they're all on ley lines. The temples are on ley lines. And, they knew what they were doing. but there was a big furnace. And the theory is that the prostitutes that were going to tell, or they got tired of them, they put them in the furnace. We knew they put an elephant in that furnace because an elephant accidentally went down in there, and you can't get an elephant back upstairs. It's just not going to happen. And they had this big, where they put in coal.
Right, coal sheet.
The elephant got down in there. It was for a circus, and it got lost and went down in there. So they had to cut him up and put him in the furnace. And I'm sure other things went in that furnace. As a matter of fact, I found a skull. And everybody was like, even the person who was doing the tour was like, that's fake. That's part of their props. I'm like, I'm a country girl. I hunt. This isn't fake. I'm going to tell you that right. It's not fake. And they're like, oh, okay, well, didn't believe me. But she called the police after a while. And it was a female skull, maybe in her teens, early 20s. And they said, well, we're not looking for a missing person, so keep the skull. Of course, they had doctors there and different things. It could have been anything. But to find that there was kind of, it's like, oh, wow.
That would be disconcerting, for sure.
Yeah. And then they had a closet where they would build props and things for their plays. And at the back of the closet, we were just filming, running around, acting like we knew what we were doing. And there was a doll back there. Reached back, grabbed it. The doll was from the 1800s, maybe early 1900s. And the stamp on the back of its neck is how I found out what it was.
Right.
Had the cloth body, and then just, it was kind of plastic hands.
Mm-hmm.
They cut the top of its head off and put one of those conductors. They were for electric poles. It was just a glass bulb on the top of it. Inside of it was a key. It was just no diary key. There was a whippet from a whipped cream can. There was twine, a bone that we think is maybe a fish bone, had been pretty large fish, or a neck bone from a human. Don't know exactly what it was. And there was a button and just a couple of other things that we thought maybe was a time capsule.
Right.
But none of it made a lot of sense as to what it was. I still don't know. But they had gouged part of her face like it was, her skin was peeled and put red, made blood there and different things. Jeremy York actually has her now. Her name is Lucy. I put her right back where I found her. I'm like, no. And the lady called me a few months later and she said, we're cleaning this out. I don't want this doll. I'm going to throw her in the trash can if you don't want her. And she sent her to me. She lived above my bed for a couple of years. Nothing ever happened.
You're a brave soul.
Nothing happened. I mean, it was nothing weird. But the weirdo I went with the first time took her apart. And I thought, oh, here we go. If anything's going to happen, it's going to happen now.
It'll be unlike Donkey Kong.
I don't know if it ever happened to him, which he was a little crazy to begin with, so I don't know. But nothing ever happened to me. And Jeremy has her, takes her to every haunted location.
Does he really?
Because my husband does not like her. When I first got with him, I would put her right beside him. I said, she'll move in the middle of the night. Watch this.
Oh, my God.
You're
so mean to your husband.
And I would put him right beside her. Right beside him. And he'd wake up. I figured before she got broke, I better give her away.
Probably so.
Jeremy has a whole TikTok page for her, Facebook page for her. And I'm like, at least she's getting to go places. But some of the things that they do there are unreal. Just like, why? What is going on here?
I'm going to tell you that the one I investigated was in South Florida. And it was very, very like proper.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, not, I don't think all of them engaged in all of the practices that we're told about,
Mm-hmm.
when we, the mysticism of the
Mm-hmm.
Masonics. But I think that there's a lot of smoke if there's not fire.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a lot of friends who are Masons, right? But you can't really talk to them about things because
This
they
is
will,
Greyhound mix.
oh, look at your baby.
Go away.
Yes, I love you. Get out of here.
Yeah.
But I did speak with someone who is a higher order Mason, and he educated me about a lot of stuff. Just on the QT, I was at an event somewhere, and he was there and just started talking about the lodge that I had investigated, former lodge. And it was so weird. And the things that happened when when I was in there didn't strike me as all that weird.
Mm-hmm.
Shortly after that, I had a very strange injury moment. And it was the second time that had happened to me in the location I was in. I had a really bad injury, and then this one that was just more of a, you know, hello, pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
And I had three different mediums and two psychics who didn't know each other, knew me separately, who said, you know, you just really need to not ever go back to this location because what I'm getting is that these were not accidents.
Mm-hmm.
And the third time's the charm.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, well, fortunately, they moved the event I used to go to. It's not there anymore. So maybe this is going to, you know, be the way things are supposed to work out. Yeah, because I wasn't going back anyway. My husband would have had a duck fit if I tried to because he got a call twice that I was hurt. The first time he had to come and get me. And
Oh,
the second time I missed my flight and was able to go back. But it was just very odd.
those
And
places are. I don't know what it is about them. I know there's things we're not told. I understand that.
there are, well, and
This was a
freaky.
temple, and
Yeah,
they had given it up. So
yeah.
the top floor was there. They still had their, of course, for the events and the tours. They took away their Bible that had the
Mhm.
writings in it and put in just a blank. Or it wasn't a blank, but it wasn't written in by them Bible.
Right.
And everything else was the same. And their props were there, and everything was there, and it was a very crazy experience both times. Nothing
Yeah.
severe bad happened, but it was, you knew it. And
Well,
then
yeah.
in it was close to Cloudcroft, New Mexico. Can't even think of the name of the town. It's way up in the mountains. There was a little motel, and it had a lot of history, so I went. They had swastikas all the way around. But when they built that, the swastikas did not mean what they mean now. Swastikas meant welcome before they got turned into something mean. And he was a Mason. And so we were talking to people in the town. And this lady told me, she said, well, I live in the house he used to live in, this man. This motel, if you knew what you were looking for, he made his fence out of rock. And it was different rocks put together, but if you look at the symbols on them, it was his path to being a Masonic higher up.
Hmm.
It had all of that there. It was just so neat.
That
But
is neat.
the lady told me, she said, there was a visitor come just shortly before we did and said she came here. Her husband was in the car. She walked up to this fence to look at the motel and was talking to this man. The man saw him. She talked to him. And he said, my house is right up there. If you want to see more of my work, just go up the hill there. She did. The lady looked at her and says, this has happened before. The man's been dead for over 20 years. And who you saw was not there. Welcome to talking to a spirit. But I'll be glad to show you his work.
That would be like, well, yeah, kind of he was there.
I did not see him, but
that's well, she had to have seen someone because she knew.
She described him, and the lady showed a picture, and she said, that's him. He's not dead. He is there. And she's like, okay.
Well, he may be there, but only in spirit. Mm-hmm. But, you know, that is something that I just spent several weeks in Scotland this year. This year in June. And it was so interesting because the energy there is so old. And I've got to think that out there, you have that same thing because you have the Spaniards, you have the Native Americans, you have the people that were brave enough to come across the mountains, you know, the plains and the mountains. And the spirits, especially of those adventurers, those were, they were intrepid, right? It was so astounding that they were able to have the gumption to actually do that trip. And then that spirit, and like with the gentleman that you were talking about, I think that spirit doesn't die. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that there are some people that are satisfied just to go on and, you know, do the next thing or whatever the next thing is. And there's some people that want to just continue the adventure. Yeah. And
that'd be me.
Yeah, I know, right? I want to know all the things. I want to be able to go. I have things that when it's my turn, I hope that we do get to adventure because I want to go into space. I want to know about UFOs. I want to know who the extraterrestrials are because I've seen them. I've heard about them. I know other people that have seen all these different species. That stuff turns me on. Yep. I want to know, right?
Yep. And I think we do. As soon as we go, I think we do. We have that knowledge immediately.
Well, I think we have it now. We just don't know how to tap it.
Right. So in Scotland, this just came to me. Here, we are some of us are so worried about Native American land. We're so worried about trespassing or being cursed or skinwalkers or, you know, whatever the case might be. My son is half Eastern Shawnee. Mm-hmm. I've been with the tribe for a long time. I'm not part of it, but he is. So I've been with them for a long time. Are they as scared there of Native American land as we are here?
Well, for one thing, not Native Americans. It is for them. It is their ancestors.
Right.
And you had different battles. You had different conquerors. You had oh my gosh, it's such a bloody history. Okay, very violent. Very interesting the way they killed each other. Mm-hmm. The methods that they used to fight, the methods that they used, you know, you're a witch. And we were talking about the, you know, Scottish, you know, Witch Trials Museum. Mm-hmm. And that is something that I didn't get to see when I was there. I don't believe it was open yet, but I will see it when I go back. Mm-hmm. But it was, I did learn a lot about the history of that, of the witch trials. A friend of mine is the National Scottish Trust person over Chorus, which is where they had a horrible history.
Yeah.
And it was, she educated me on a lot of that. My empath side is going, no, quit talking about this, but it needs to be talked about because what we did to the Native Americans, they did to each other.
Yeah.
But much, much worse. And I've had a couple of different people say that they didn't know that the Scottish did that to their women.
Mm-mm.
And it was some, one of the things that I found in Scotland is that it's perfectly okay to be a witch.
Mm-hmm.
You can do whatever. You can be who you want to be. They're very accepting. One of the things I found throughout the UK, people that I spoke with, is that how fixed we are on disclosure with ufology.
Mm-hmm.
They already know. They had Rendlesham. They had government documentation of something that happened there. They had military personnel on site. And so when I was there, one of the reasons I went was for the Scottish UFO and Paranormal Conference because my friend Linda was speaking there. And it was so interesting because they're not that fussed about disclosure over there. I didn't hear the word once. And that's all you hear here.
Yeah.
And we have cases where there's not really any doubt that something was here. Tons of people saw it.
Yeah.
And nobody will say anything, so we're still hitting on the word disclosure. We had people in the government come out 2 years ago saying that, 3 years ago, that yes, we have craft. Yes, we have non-human biologics. Yes, we have this evidence and that evidence. And, the year before Roswell, there was another UFO crash that was actually documented. So probably better than Roswell was.
Right.
So, it's just kind of, we're so fixated here on things that we can't see the forest or the trees.
Roswell's
And
now. I lived an hour from there.
yeah.
It's a joke.
Well, I was in Roswell this summer.
Did you see the McDonald's?
Huh?
Did you see the McDonald's there?
I didn't go to the McDonald's. Oh, wait. I wasn't at, well, I guess I was at Roswell. I was in Rachel.
Okay.
In Rachel in Area 51. And
okay. You were in the real place. The real area. McDonald's is a spacecraft. The museum in Roswell.
I wish I had gone there.
It is an absolute joke.
I would have had fun though, because I love cool McDonald's. But
they have a picture, a newspaper picture of this little alien-looking thing that you can tell is a stuffed animal, and it makes people go, "This is about as big as a joke as you can get." And they walk away without actually.
Well, but what better way to discredit it, right?
Yeah, they sure.
I mean, that's what the whole purpose of that kind of thing is.
Mm-hmm.
I went. I was so blown away by the acceptance of the paranormal, the acceptance of witchcraft, the acceptance of UFOs that the Scots have.
Mm-hmm.
And you can just be who the hell you want to be. Yeah. Just don't do any harm to anyone else.
Right.
And one of the things that really blew me away is that they have what they call the right to roam. And you can go anywhere if it's abandoned or whatever. Don't go where somebody lives. Right. But like all these old castles that are decrepit and rubble, you have the right to roam, but you do not have the right to redress if something happens to you there. That's on you. Yeah. If you went in there, Oh, well, if you
Yeah.
die, your family will find you eventually, I guess. I don't
Yep.
know. But
You told somebody where you were.
yeah, but and we can't do that here. We don't have that privilege here because we're too irresponsible to take a responsibility for ourselves.
Yep.
We think that everybody else is responsible if we make a bad decision here. But to me, it's the same attitude with ufology. It's the same attitude with the witchcraft. It's the same attitude. Like the place that we went to lunch at Loch Ness is called the Three Witches.
Oh,
And they do not have any problem with witchcraft now because they were so hideous to people that were dubbed witches. Because all you had to do if you wanted to get rid of your wife, oh, she's doing witchcraft. Just like
mhm.
Salem, only on steroids.
Yeah.
And they would lock people up in jails, prisons. In Chorus, it was the toll house. It was just terrible. And torture them. And the people in the village would hear it. It was just so hideous.
That's not something you forget. That would not
It's,
be something you forget the rest of your life, hearing somebody be tortured.
I cannot even fathom. I would not want to know.
No. And it's amazing we don't know about this. I mean, I genuinely had no clue that happened there.
Yeah.
I thought it only happened here.
No, people are mean and ugly all over the world.
Right. But witchcraft, I that's not that should be something that is said right along with Salem. That it happened
Well,
other places.
yeah.
But it's
Well,
not.
America doesn't have the patent on lunacy and just sheer killing for the joy of killing and torturing for the joy of torturing. There's a lot of that around.
Yeah, there is. I just, to me, it's amazing how we're trying to cancel our own history instead of
Truth.
talking about it.
Yeah.
But we don't talk
Well,
about others.
one thing that I have found, and I'm from Birmingham, Alabama, and we had a terrible civil rights history. But when all of the riots were happening recently and stuff, people thought this would be an easy target to send, to get people riled up and come here. And I've seen it happen before too. And both times that this was happening, the people of Birmingham did not participate. The people that came here to rally were bussed in. And the people of Birmingham are like, we know what this is really. We've lived through this. We are not living through this again. We get along here. People are respectful of each other. And you do have a criminal element. Criminals are idiots and they do not treat anyone with respect.
Yeah.
So that's the exception to that comment. But, if you have been through it and you know what it really is, you tend to not tolerate somebody that's usurping that.
Right.
And I think that with Salem, wasn't just Salem, that's just where it's famous.
Right.
It was throughout the country. It was throughout, Scotland. It was throughout England. It was not isolated.
Yeah.
You would like to think that it would just be a bunch of freaking idiots that were schmucks that went on a rampage or something, and that's completely worse than what it was.
Yeah.
The
And
reality is worse.
squirrel hole I went down just a minute ago, a little rabbit hole. We were talking about my husband not being paranormal. I got him this. It's a pretty good size
Yep.
stone crystal. I keep it in his little drawer over here.
Yeah.
He loves it. He loves the look of it. That's all I care. It's there.
Yep.
It's doing its job. His favorite is jet. And until him, I really had not heard of it.
Oh, okay.
We were in a crystal shop one day and he picks it up and he goes, oh, look, feel this. It has no weight to it. I'm like, oh, that is very strange. I said, that's not even no, put it down. He said, no, I really like this. I said, okay. So I'm doing research. Said, oh, well, he has migraines.
Mm-hmm.
He was in a motorcycle accident, so he has a traumatic brain injury. So he has migraines. It's supposed to help with pain.
Yeah.
And of course the squirrel brain that he has worse than I do. But yeah, he wears it every day. It's on him every day. I'm like, that is really neat. That
That's what he was pulled to.
Yeah, it was something I didn't even know about. So we both learned something.
I'm always amazed at the things I didn't know.
Yeah.
Right. And when it comes to stones, I'm that girl because I'm always surprised. It's like with my friend Mary with that stone. I had no idea. Right. I just knew it was something that I was supposed to ask her.
Yep.
And Tom McNicholas has a question for you, and that is, what are your favorite healing crystals? What do you like to use?
It really depends on the person and what I feel they need healed. I'd like to say I go to the book and look, but I don't. I like to put a bunch of crystals in front of somebody and let them see what they're drawn to. My favorites are always, I don't know why I love moonstone. I just think it's pretty.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
It is pretty.
What it does, I have no idea, but it's on my desk every day. I know what it does for me. It's calming.
Yeah.
What it's supposed to do, I have no idea. Quartz, clear quartz, I recommend for anybody, just because it has a cleansing energy. Selenite.
Yes.
Has that, I at least once a week cleanse your aura with the selenite. Even if it's just something as silly as, like you're brushing your hair, go over it. I think if my husband would see me do some of the things like that, he'd go, you know what? I'm just walking away. I don't know what you're doing, but I'm walking away.
Just knock your socks off and thanks for whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Any dark stone, selenite, obsidian, even, of course, I can't think now. I make little broomsticks out of them for Halloween, and I can't think of what they're called. The little stones that look like a little broomstick.
I don't know.
They're really weird. Of course, I'll think of it as soon as we're not talking about it. But any dark, anything black absorbs negative energy. I don't ever wear them because if I'm supposed to feel that negative energy, I need to for a reason. So I just don't wear things like that. I'll wear, more than anything, I'll wear my clear quartz or my tiger's eye. And the tiger's eye, really, I just think it's pretty. Petrified wood. I have one that's petrified wood.
I love petrified wood.
My friend, you might know her, Jennifer Lee. She's the one that done our hand binding for our wedding.
Okay.
We had his son come from Japan. He lives in Japan. He's a teacher and a wrestler. And we told him, in Colorado, you don't have to be ordained. You don't have to do anything. Anybody can marry anybody. It doesn't matter. As long as you got the paperwork, it don't matter. So he came and we told him, he said, you know what, world, we really don't care. You do this ceremony. Don't care what you do. He made it funny. He made it was amazing. But then Jennifer did our hand binding. And it was a pagan type thing of the hand binding.
Right.
And it was just a piece of her. is what that was. We wanted her to be a part of it. And she gave me a piece of petrified wood, which this sucker is this big, it's heavy. And she also gave me a necklace that I wore at my wedding. And I can't remember the stones on it. They were not crystal. They were not, but they were just so neat. And the little paper that went with them said something about it's nurturing love. Everything goes with a wedding. So it was just really neat. She gave me a few things like that and selenite knife with a on the end of it. Of course, those things I'll always hold. They have a special place because they're from her. They have a meaning. They're meant to be there. But those are the things that I wear more than anything. And they, you can pick them up anywhere.
You can.
Yeah. I mean, when I was moving from New Mexico to here, my best friend, my car was acting silly. So her and her husband met me at the border to make sure everything's okay. He's a mechanic. We were at the side of the mountain and there was just some rocks there that just looked really cool. And I was picking them up. I still have them on my dresser this day. They don't have to be a crystal per se. It's part of the earth. It's a rock. And for some reason, I needed it right then. So I still have it.
Well, I did something similar to that when I went to the Integratron in Joshua Tree. And they have the Crystal Hill there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, well, I'm here. I'm going to see what I can find.
Yeah.
And I still don't know what it was. It felt like shale, but it was completely black. Mm-hmm. And then there was a piece right next to it that was completely silver. And I thought, I'm taking this because I want my husband to tell me what this is because he does metals, right? Because he's a machinist. So it looks like, I don't know what it looks like, but there wasn't another piece of it anywhere around. And so I did get some regular crystals and stuff because they were like, yeah, help yourself. Just don't take the whole mountain, the whole hill. But I just think that the crystal is so interesting because, like we said at the beginning of the show, it's used in everything. Mm-hmm. Everything electronic and electrical, as a rule, uses that in some form or fashion. Mm-hmm. I just think that there's a reason that we're drawn to certain things. I love turquoise. I love any greenstone. When I was at Contact in the Desert, I got a shungite bracelet.
Oh.
And shungite is, oh my gosh, one of the best grounding things I've ever touched.
Yep.
So is that available around you?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So my bracelet finally died and I was crushed. I have the shungite, but I haven't threaded it up because I figured that things work the way they're supposed to.
It's done its job.
Yeah.
It's taken in more than it can handle and done its job.
And it's done. Yeah.
My husband picked this up too, and it's green.
Yep.
It's glass. It's not a crystal. It's glass.
Hold it back up because I'm going to put my specs on. Oh my gosh. I love that. Look how deep that is.
It's glass.
Yeah. I love it. Because my glasses are green. So I like greens. Something that's funny is that when my dad passed away, my stepmother was giving me all the stuff out of his, treasure boxes and stuff. And you wouldn't believe how many, how when you go to a mine or something, you get the little bag of rocks that you can, do while you're there. There were so many gems. And I mean, real gems, sapphires and you name it. And I'm like, oh my God, how many times did he go to these little mines? he used to love to go to Cherokee and do the, shaker thingies and stuff like that. So it's just like, well, okay.
Yeah.
But he's also who found out that we are part Cherokee. So there's that. But
My,
which we
my,
already knew, but he found the documentation.
my son is Eastern Shawnee and Cherokee.
Yeah. So
Kyanite. That's what I was trying to think of.
Kyanite.
Kyanite.
Thank you. Yes.
I had to look it up. Oh,
At least you did.
they make the cutest little witch like brooms for Halloween
Yes.
on a necklace.
Well, you'll have to send me a picture of that because I'd like to see it.
It's hilarious.
So,
It's
so what
TikTok.
do you do? We've only got about 10 minutes left and we have not even brought up things except just in passing. But what do you do as the lead investigator there in Colorado?
I actually, since it's just kind of me, my husband goes for protection
Right.
more than anything, because it's really hard to find somebody you trust on a team, and you have to
Yes.
trust them. If they tell you they saw a woman standing there, you're going to have to trust that they believe they saw that, or that they
Yes.
see that. So, and I have not found that yet. I've lived here 3 years, and I found some people, but not that I would trust. It's just my energy says no. No.
I always trust that.
Yeah, this is not okay. So it's just he and I. And I did work a case with somebody. She does a show on things, but she is not part of things as far as, on one of the teams. And she's in Alabama as well. It was a pretty serious case where they were into satanic things.
Okay.
And I had never delved into any of that. And she was trying to figure out why she was being attacked at night, different things. And as we got deeper into it and were able to talk to her ex-husband, it got so scary.
Yes.
I'm like, I cannot, I don't even know where to go with this, and I don't know how to help. So the only thing we could say, is go to a Catholic church. They're not going to laugh at you. You tell them what you have done, and you tell them you want help. And, they're there to help. They're not going to judge you. They're there to help. It's okay. And she refused anything to do with the church or cleansing or, anything else. But when
That's unfortunate.
It is. And to this day, she's still the same way. But I collaborate with all of the other states' teams when we do something like this, which this one, we put it in the files. Things has a file of all the people who have done different investigations, even if it's just going out and exploring. We're trying to build a database where,
well, sure, yeah.
At one point we can put in, they'll make an app soon. You can put in, this day, this temperature, whatever the case might be, and it's going to pull up things that happened that we have had happen, and maybe find a common ground within that day in different areas, or that temperature, that weather, whatever it might be. But I always, even a home investigation, I'll be like, okay, this is the evidence I have. Everybody put your input in, because I don't have a team. I need everybody's input. And we collaborate as a team. Everybody does.
Right.
Of course, unless you have a team, and then, you can do that on your own. But until I do, that's what we do. I'm also HR of things. God bless him. I don't know why he put me as HR, because I'm as blunt as they get. PR is not so much my thing, but he has faith in me, so we're gonna be okay.
Of course you are. You'd be great. It's all good, right? Because we're trying to establish a norm.
Yeah.
And if you don't have anything to measure against, then you have no idea what you're up against.
Right.
So the atmospheric conditions, the EMF readings within the structure, that type of thing is always so important.
Yeah. Yeah. EMF is something I found. I actually did an investigation at one point in New Mexico. I hated the EMF readings. I thought, but I actually stopped his house from catching on fire
There
because
you go.
he was, I was, there's something, he was actually seeing aliens. And I'm like, I don't know if EMF works for this. This is not my forte. I don't know.
You
And
found out though, right?
I found out it does not.
Yeah.
But I was where he was showing me, and there's a light switch right there, which I knew would, it should spike a little, but it spiked a lot. And I'd follow the wire up, and it didn't. It was just there. And I told him, I said, please call an electrician because something's not right here. He did. And the wiring was like touching where it shouldn't have been or something strange. But from now on, I always take it just for that reason, just in case.
Yeah.
Who knows what would happen to him. I like to think I helped.
I would think so. I had a case once where, and I was using the old TAPS app, right, that Jason and them have put out.
Yep.
And a friend of mine's husband had actually developed that app. So, excuse me, when I was at a location and every time the homeowner would walk out, the EMF would go to normal. And every time she would come back in, it would jump to above 700. And I was like, holy crap. So I called my friend. He just happened to be at an event where Jason was. And I said, why would a human be causing this? Because there's no TENS unit, there's no pacemaker, there's nothing about that. So Jason was like, well, it's got to be something like that. And I'm like, it's not. Okay, it's not. And so Rick was like, the developer, he was like, you should probably go home. I was like, I think you're right. But she was a very difficult case in her own right. She would hunt fox for fun, pot shot them off her deck and taxidermy them. So there was a lot of strangeness there. So I blame the EMF. But I just think that you have been so much fun to talk to about these things. And I know that it was a rocky beginning because we were trying to get out to all these different streams and stuff. And you are just so absolutely wonderful.
Well, thank you.
And I've enjoyed our conversation.
I learned a lot. That's what it takes.
Well, I learned a lot too. That's what makes it so fun, right?
It is.
When you have shared interests and different experiences and you get to bring them to each other. Yep. And, that's why people are always like, well, you're very chatty. Well, it's a talk show. Yeah. It's a conversation. And, it just absolutely makes a difference, I think, when we get to share ideas, and you brought so many.
I think I'm all over the place. I don't know everything about anything. I just try to learn about everything.
Well, it keeps you open to ideas though, right? If you're still a student of what you love, then you're open to learning new things about it.
Yep. Oh, Tom ordered a gold topaz.
I had told him he's a Scorpio and I'm a Scorpio also. And he was like, well, this topaz, I said gold. It's a gold topaz that you need. So
show me on our show, Tom. I know you're going to get it. Show me.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things that you just need. If you're a Scorpio, my grandmother kept little birthstone rings from the 70s and 80s. Oh, yeah. My grandma kept a packet of them because every time she would give me one, it would just disappear. And I have that happen a lot with different things over time. It's just so crazy.
It happens in
And
this house.
it happens in my house too.
Unfortunately, it happens here with money too. And of course, you tell somebody that, and they're like, "Well, of course it does.
You
Somebody's
just,
stealing." Nobody in this house
no,
is stealing anything.
no.
It's we'll find it. We'll find it, but who knows when?
And where?
That's the problem.
When and where, so different because a friend of mine is absolutely convinced that there are house elves. And I'm
Me
like,
too.
no, I have ghosts that mess with me.
Yeah,
I have
I just
spirits in this
call
house.
them
And
little gremlins. That's what I tell mom because she's in her
yeah,
70s. But she believes what I
yeah,
tell her. I tell her they're gremlins, and she's like, these gremlins need to give this back because she's even lost her gun, which I'm a little concerned about. But
oh, that would be concerning. Yeah,
it is, and I'm like, Dad loses his keys every day, and it's because it's Dad, and he's in his 70s. But
yeah,
other things, it's like I know where I put it, and you can't walk down the stairs, so then we find it.
yeah. And I find it like I I am scattered sometimes, but because it happens so much, I have designated spots for my keys, my shades, whatever,
Yep.
And so it's so wild because I will take my keys out of the cupboard, put them on the counter. It's right in front of the microwave, close to the door, so
Mhm.
that I've got everything ready, and my keys will be gone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't have time for this.
Yeah.
Put them back now, or just put them where I will see them because I'm not fooling with you.
Yeah.
And my husband's like, you're crazy. I said, I am not crazy because
Yeah.
they show back up,
Mhm.
usually within 5 to 10 minutes.
That's the sad
And,
part. It does.
I'm just like,
You go, okay, I know. I know.
yeah,
And I started putting cameras all over the house for that reason because I know I did not do that.
right. And it, yeah, for a little while there, I was questioning my sanity. I thought, well, maybe
Yep.
I really am, bat poop crazy.
Getting older.
And turns out that, maybe I am, but stuff happens too, right? So,
Funny thing is, you never see it on camera. You do not see anything disappear on camera,
really,
but you go there and it's not there, and you saw yourself put it there.
hmm
No
that would be
explanation.
so annoying.
Yes.
That would be annoying.
Uh-huh.
Oh my God. But yeah, I don't have cameras inside because my dogs kept setting them off. And then I had my lab died, so I only had small dogs. So I thought, well, I can still use that. Well, no, because they jump.
Oh, yeah.
So now I have one small dog and one big dog. And I just don't, I'm not putting my, ring cameras back up. I may put some regular cameras up, but not my alarm system cameras because,
Yeah. These are just ZOC cameras. Now they do notify,
yeah.
but I
yeah.
turn the notifications off because the flag outside will move. We've had
Ah,
big issue with catalytic converters getting stolen, and mom and dad's did.
oh man.
So, we got them outside too. But I thought I have two left. I'm going to put it in the creepy hallway. I'm going to put it in the basement to watch dad come down here and get food out of our fridge. That's what I'm going
Yeah,
to
that's funny. But the creepy hallway was a good decision, probably.
do. It's red. And it's funny because this house is built in 1908 and the hallway is the carpet's red and the wallpaper is from 1900s red with that velvet you can feel.
Like the brocade.
Yes,
Oh,
it's red
wow.
and gold. And that hallway, everybody freaks out, some because of the color. But when mom and dad was little, everybody would see the hall light up and say, that's the hooker hallway. Because it looked like the red light district when you turn it on.
That's so funny.
Still does.
The hooker hallway.
Yeah.
If I get out there, you're going to have to show me that.
we've actually had it on the Supernatural Talk. I did a little video going down that hallway. Of course, everybody that's on the show with me has, besides
Yeah.
Eileen, has been here, so they've stayed in that hallway.
Yeah. That's fun.
Jeremy don't get nothing off of anything. He takes his hearing aids out and he's done. He don't hear a thing.
Well, that's Andy.
It would be.
I could live with that a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, tell people if they have paranormal questions or if they need information on crystals or if they need a good cleansing, how would they get in touch with you in your area?
On Facebook. Just find me on Facebook, Adrienne Clayton. I think I'm the only one. I think
You are, yes.
So, yeah, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I do not charge. I do not charge for readings. I do not charge for anything.
Well, I don't tell people I do readings.
I don't usually, but people that come to me usually are drawn for a reason.
Exactly.
And there's something I need to say.
Well, I get that. I have people that I had somebody come up to me one time that I didn't know from Eve. And she was like, well, I need a reading from you. And I'm like, why would you ask me for a reading? And she was like, well, because you're who's supposed to do it. I said, well, what kind of questions do you have? And she was like, you're just going to tell me what I need to know. No pressure.
Yeah.
No pressure whatsoever. But I didn't know. She didn't even know that I did this, right?
Right.
I mean, it was so random. And I just looked at her. I was like, who have you lied to? And it was on like Donkey Kong from that point. I was like, oh, I was right. Cool beans. Thank you. But but I don't do it because I don't trust it. It's a lot of responsibility.
It is. And telling people the truth is hard because the empath side does not want to do that.
Yes. But you're not doing them a favor if you don't.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And that's why I don't do it for money. And, the legality of it, who's to say you're right? And if they were to sue you for something you told them, how can you prove Spirit told you something?
Yeah. There's no way.
So I'm like, no, we're not getting into that.
Yeah, I don't really feel like that's something I want to have happen.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that. But we are going to have to run. I am so glad that you came on with me. You're my first person outside of Nick and Jeremy that I've interviewed with things. And I'm just so glad to be part of that network. And I'm glad to get to meet you and have a conversation with you.
We're glad to have you. Everybody's so good. I mean, we're so picky with who we choose to come on. Everybody's amazing. That, if you're on there, it's we can trust whoever's there.
Yes.
And I think that's huge. That's huge that we have that trust.
I agree with you. It's a very important thing.
Yeah. Yep.
So, well, thank you again. And I want to let everyone know that I'm so glad that you were here listening because this, I think, is some important information to get out. There's a lot of ways that you can get help if you are in a paranormal bind. And if you're having problems with visitations of any kind, there's always going to be a way to find help. And the Things Network is pretty diverse and pretty interesting. There's a lot of experience there. So you can find them on Facebook. And it's THINGS. And it's the Hoosier Investigation.
The Hoosier Investigation New Ghost Society. There we go.
Thank you. Okay. I knew it was there. I just couldn't pull it up. And so it's a great organization. You'll really be able to find help and answers that you need. And next week here on Fate, I'm going to be bringing in guest Brian Bowden, and he is a radio talk show host. He is, oh my goodness, he is a paranormal investigator. He is a Reiki master as well. He's just a brilliant human, and I'm very excited to have him on with me. So you'll see his information coming up on the Fate page, and be sure and join us next week. Thank you so much
I'm looking
again.
forward to that. Yes.
Thank you. And Adrienne, thank you again. And
Thank
a
you.
special shout out to Carl for making this happen for me, because we were trying all kinds of things today and he made it work. So thank you for that. Good
Yes.
night. Oh, and don't forget, fatemag.com. You can get magazines, you can get books, you can get all kinds of things. And you can reach me through the website. So be sure that you go and check that out and get a subscription if you don't have one. It's been there since 1948 and it's still great and rocking. So see you next week. Same cat time, same cat channel. Thank you for being here. Good night.